to this press conference. I saw the leader of the opposition had a minor altercation in New York over the past couple of days. And my money would have been on the leader of the opposition, I think, had it gone to blows. I just wanted to say that for the people in the country. I think he is very capable of handling himself. I just wanted to give him a little shout out. I don't know if he's still in New York or back home. This week I wanted to focus back on a few policy issues. So I saw our dear friend Gordon Mosley posting something recently, which was very telling. This was the post. And the PAL series for the registration of vehicles has started, just 3 months after the start of the last vehicle registration series. A car series cover 9,999 registrations, which would mean that between February and early June, a total of 9,999 vehicles have been registered for the country's roadways. This tells a story. It's a simple post. It tells a story that within 3 months of this year, we've had over 9,999 vehicles registered that would come onto our roadways. And if this is not a sign of prosperity or progress, nothing is, because not all of these vehicles would come in for wealthy people. A lot of ordinary Guyanese are acquiring more assets. But more importantly, just imagine if we had a short-sighted policy as that of the opposition, which they've been advocating for several years. They're saying that all the oil money in the budget must be distributed to people and nothing must go towards infrastructure. We're building too many roads. So we already know that only 37% of the budget is funded from oil resources. They would have you believe otherwise. But they're saying that forget that. And it goes mainly to education, health, and to public infrastructure. That's oil funding. But they've said, forget building roads. Why are we building highways? And yet, we would have had 10,000 vehicles in the country, maybe much more now. There's just 3 months of this year. I shudder to think about how many more will be in before the end of the year. If this trend holds and 10,000 vehicles come in 3 months, you're talking about 40,000 vehicles per year. If we don't expand the infrastructure of the country to accommodate this, every one of you will be frustrated, like I am sometimes, and I have siren. This morning, I was coming, and I got stuck with police vehicle ahead of me by the library, the National Library, for a long period. I couldn't even come down the road because there was nowhere to go, even if you turn on the siren. And I'm sure that every citizen of this country would have experienced a similar ordeal on the road, and that's compounded often because of the infrastructure work that we're doing, which is sometimes done, which would be disruptive in their very nature, but sometimes it's done in a haphazard way, which causes even more problems for people. So that's the reality of our roads. People spend a lot of time there, time they can spend with their family or in leisure activities. And this opposition is saying, forget all of that. Too much money on infrastructure. So we are committed to expanding the infrastructure of the country, modernizing it. We are going to expand the airport, a new terminal, you know that already, because the flights coming in and the numbers of people transiting our airport has grown immeasurably. So we need to expand the airport. You just saw KLM return to Ghana after a very long period. I think earlier this week they returned. And that's such a great addition to the number of flights that we already have, because it gives you a direct link, a direct flight into Europe, which is a major thing. Now, if we have to go to Europe, we have to go to the US, then fly to Europe. Europe offers us a new transit point for Africa, for Asia, for any part of the world, actually, or the Middle East. You can easily go there and then fly on to those destinations. And so Guyana is becoming a hub, and we will promote that even in a greater way. We plan already, you know about the plans to continue the 4-lane all the way to the airport, to complete the 4-lane along in Region 4 from Georgetown to Mahaika. In the next term, to award a 4-lane from Mahaika, contract for a 4-lane road from Mahaika to Rossignol. Then the bridge would be awarded. We already went out to tender for the bridge similar to the one that's being built here in Georgetown. That would be completed. We've already awarded contracts for the 4-lane road from New Amsterdam all the way to Molson Creek. So you'd be able to drive continuously from the border all the way to the airport, and then on a 4-lane road. And then similarly, we plan to also do the 4-lane from the bridge to Goshen, that is the Parika area, because Region 3 has a massive population and it's growing. In Region 2, we plan to widen the current road by 8 feet and repave it, because the population there, that would be adequate from our estimation to serve the population there. But those are just some plans, and those might not even be adequate. Along the East Coast corridor, we are developing, apart from the 4-lane road on the railway embankment, another road at the back that would be a service road for the infrastructure that we are putting in, the GPL infrastructure, because we want to move those transmission mains off the main roads to the back on the high towers. But eventually that will be developed with the new villages along the expanded housing. We have 20,000 house lots being developed on the East Coast, so they will also need additional infrastructure in these areas. It just tells you. So you have politicians who will ignore this fact. It's just a simple post, but it tells you a lot about what's happening in the country. And if a government doesn't plan for that future, where will we be if we don't plan for it? But from APNU and the other, and AFC, you don't hear anything about that. It's just you would hear every day them saying, we're spending too much on roads, and people can't eat roads. That's what they're saying. But people drive on roads. People drive on roads. They need roads as well. Food is important, and we have to tackle that too, but they need the roads. So it just shows you how short-sighted and how lacking in vision these political parties are. And it tells you a lot about what's happening in our country. Now, people have to, if this is going to be 40,000 vehicles this year, they're going to buy it. They have to have the money to buy it. And where is this coming from? Since we've been in office in the 5 years, in the public sector workers are earning $105 billion more per year in wages and salaries. $105 billion per year more than 2020. That's a lot of money. That's about 500 million US dollars. That's if you check the numbers in the budget, you will see that. That's how much more they are earning in the public sector alone. I've argued that with 60,000 people working now who are now working, they're working at the fast food places, they're working at Starbucks, they're going to working at new hotels, they're working with expanded taxi services, a whole range of professions now. But they are earning more too, because if you're now working in 2020, you couldn't earn, now you're working. So that's the private sector disposable income is great too. If you check in the banking sector and you look at our deposits, aggregate deposits, that is how much money we're saving as a country and people. When you add up all the corporate savings as well as individual savings, you will see how it's grown phenomenally, massively. That's in the banking system. Our people are earning more, they're saving more, and they're spending more. So that is an indicator of what's happening, the growing prosperity. Not everyone, it's not perfect for everyone, but on the whole, that is the trend in our country. So they would have you believe that in these 5 years, we've gone backwards. If you listen to the opposition, you will think that the country has regressed rather than made progress. Everything is wrong. That people are suffering more now than before. But what are the facts? So I saw a feeble attempt by AFC to this week talk about governance issues and taxation and governance and indigenous people reform, because they like to, they're fake sophisticates, as I said before. They like to present this air of being intellectuals. But when you poke the substance of what they speak about, you'd see how hollow and how duplicitous they are. So the AFC telling the people of this country about issues like governance is like Lucifer going to heaven and lecturing the angels about how not to sin. This is how it is. And I can demonstrate this factually. Not that they are Lucifers, because next thing they'll say, Jagdeo call them the devil. But I'm just using that as a comparison, how disgusting it is for me. Imagine the AFC talking about taxation now. Another one, well, let me don't go there yet. But this is the party that was in government with the PNC just recently. Forget ancient history, up to 2020. They supported the value-added tax on a whole range of items, including healthcare, on water, on electricity, on baby food, on a whole range of items. This is the party that did that. They supported the value-added tax on hinterland travel, on freight to the hinterland. After claiming you have a high cost of living in the hinterland, you had to pay a tax on the freight. They instituted a whole slew of new taxes. I don't want to go through that. Almost 200 taxes and fee increases that they passed in Parliament. And if you go back and listen to the debates, we were in Parliament in opposition at that time saying, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? You don't need to increase taxes for people, on the miners, on the farmers, everyone else. We were opposed to the taxation increase. They collected $94 billion more per year because of increased taxes alone. 94 billion, and they claimed they didn't have money. 94 billion more per year. And I told you earlier how they were so doctrinaire in their approach and arrogant about it, that they believed they were doing the people a favor in the country by increasing their taxation. If you listen to the debates, the arrogance in which they imposed these policies, they knew best. This is the only way you could have done it. I gave you the experience of the car tax study, that when I was president, they came to me and said, when we were replacing all of the other taxes with the value-added tax, there were 6 taxes we replaced with the value-added tax. They said to achieve revenue neutrality, we had to have a 16% across the board for every item with no exemption. And I said, that's never going to happen in the government. And we exempted water, all utilities. We exempted health and education. We exempted a whole range of basic food items. We exempted from all of the value-added taxes. We zero-rated them. They reintroduced that to everything because they were doctrinaire in the implementation. It didn't come out of an indigenous coordinated effort. They were just dusting off old reports and implementing taxation policies. So we've seen this. And when Nigel Hughes, the same party that is now talking about taxation, when he was questioned, he wrote the response, read his response about why they remove the cash grant from the children and a number of other things. He said it was a fiscal imperative that caused that. I don't think he understands what it means, because that a fiscal imperative that caused them to do this. So clearly there was no fiscal imperative to do that, because we could have easily not spend the money on the ministerial health care that they took in Ireland, that we were paying for, insurance for ministers and their families to go to Ireland for health care that they put in place under APNU, AFC government. Before that, there was none of that. You had to either take care of your own health care or go to the local hospitals. But we started paying for that. There was not that before. They were spending the money on that, but not on the children. They didn't have any money for the children and their cash grant. They didn't have any money for that. So what fiscal imperative? Clearly, they did not prioritize that. They were not spending on infrastructure, because the infrastructure budget in 5 years, every year almost, and for the 5 years, was lower than 2014, the last budget that the PPP put in place before it left office. What it meant, they were running down the schools, the hospitals, the roads, the city fences, the drainage and irrigation systems, because they were spending less on capital and more on recurrent, by more food in government, dietary, more rental of buildings, more vehicles. That's where the priority was. And all of these are the facts of their existence or the period in office. So when they talk about taxation policy now, who would believe them? Now, this is the party that campaigned in 2015 on lower taxation. So they have two problems. One is the nonsense that they talk about taxation, and two, about the credibility or the believability of what they say, because they can say anything like they did in 2015 and then come into government and arrogantly institute a whole new range of policies. Contrast that with the PPP, what we said. We said we'd lower the taxes, we'd remove all these taxes. When we start campaigning, you will see we've done so. We've removed all the taxes. We've kept our promise that we made in our manifesto to the people of this country. Healthcare, they talk about healthcare reform at their press conference. So I'm just coming back to policy and how they're, as I said before, they're feeble attempt again. So by the end of August, or maybe early by September, we will be opening 6 new hospitals across the country. Diamond this weekend. I want you to go to Diamond Hospital when it's open. Take a walk through, a tour. And that's one of the smaller ones. That's for $30 million, and we're building one at Enmore, Diamond, Bath, number 75, Dekendra, and Lima for their different regions. 2, 3, 2 in 4, and 1 in 5, 1 in 6. We have 4 hospitals for the 4 hinterland regions, and Linden would be upgraded, $30 million to upgrade the existing hospital. And we're going to upgrade Bartica, West Demerara, etc. But this is what's happening now. And then we're building 2 major hospitals, one at New Amsterdam that's already under construction, and one at Ogun. So you take a walk through. I was talking to someone who is in healthcare delivery, and he said, I did a walk through there. And this is the smaller of the hospitals that we're building now, and said, there's nothing in the private sector that mirrors what's in there now. And when it's open on Sunday, please take a walk, even if you're not sick. Just go through it to get a feel for our investments. We can say in 5 years, we came in, we had to deal with COVID. They made a mess of it. They just built the hospital. We could have done 40 tests per day under COVID. Just imagine 40 tests. Within months, we took that up to 5,000. We got the antiretrovirals. We hunt them down. We kept our people safe. We put in oxygen. You didn't have oxygen. The place was not configured for oxygen. You don't have beds in the hospital. That was in the middle of COVID. They had shut down the country, but didn't have a bed in the hospital. Not a single bed in the hospital, a COVID hospital. We came in under those circumstances. We reopened the country. We kept our people safe. And then we crafted a plan that was not there to do all of these. And right now we have 12 new hospitals, public hospitals that are under construction across this country that will change healthcare. But we didn't only do that. Georgetown Hospital was upgraded. We brought in Mount Sinai, we brought in Northwell. We're expanded the we destroyed $10 billion of expired drugs from the bond that they were just buying willy-nilly. That was their record. So now to come just before the election season to talk about complete health reform. You know, they like to use these buzzwords, complete health reform. That's what we're doing. We're working on hiring personnel. These hospitals, we need 6,000 new people to work there. We're training more people. We're working on a national electronic patient management record system that would transform the way people interact with the system. All of the vouchers for testing, cervical cancer, universal healthcare voucher, getting spectacles. All of these programs are done now. But what are they offering? Complete health reform. It looks good. They would probably take somebody's brochure from some other country, change the name, and then hand it to the electorate. Oh, we have a manifesto with complete health reform. Their complete health reform, this top of the list is, as I said before, health reform for ministers. You know, ministers, that's it, because they took the best themselves right at the beginning. Ireland, we were paying for them to go to Ireland to get their health checkup and stuff, them and their families, which we discontinued as soon as we got back into office. So they then went on to talk about governance. Now, this is very rich from a party that tried to steal elections. And Nigel Hughes is, until now, well, I know Norton, right? Norton said he had the SOPs. He has them somewhere in Congress Place that show they won. But Norton is my friend, so I'm not going to talk much about him today. We know what he is. He is basically, he was lying. He is lying, you know? Then Patterson said he saw the SOPs too that showed they won the elections. These are the same people who are talking about governance and credibility. He saw the SOPs that showed that. Nigel Hughes said he didn't know if the elections were rigged, but he's going to do a review and a study. Up to now, the study can't be done. 2 years he promised the study to find out if he will apologize to the electorate for trying to steal elections. Stealing elections is the litmus test for credibility and governance. If you steal elections, what else can you talk about governance? Everything else becomes mooted. Everything else. You defy the Constitution of Guyana. You had to go to elections in 3 months after a successful no confidence motion. You stuck around, squatted on power in office for over a year. Then only with international pressure and the CCJ ruling we managed to get elections. Then after the elections, you squatted another 5 months in office, enjoying all the benefits. They were not ministers or anything. They enjoyed the benefits, salary, benefits, everything else. 5 months after the election were held, and now you're talking about governance. You violated the Constitution. Nigel Hughes was an active participant in this. Then the appointment of the chairman of GCOM. They are talking about GCOM now again. 25 years of common understanding between the PNC, the PPP, and everyone else, that this provision in the Constitution will work in this manner. We've all respected that, every leader. Desmond Hoyt, Corbyn, Jagdeo, Ramatar, everybody. It started, until the last government came into office and they said, oh, we have a different view of this. We can unilaterally appoint, contrary to the constitutional provision. If you can't respect a basic provision of the Constitution that has been, the interpretation of that clause had been settled not only in law but also in practice, then how could you ever claim credibility again on anything associated with governance? I don't want to go down the long list because sometimes we forget that in the 5 years we've had most violation of the Constitution and people's rights than any other period in office. And I can give you the long list. We had documented this. From threatening Carville Duncan. You remember Carville Duncan was the head, I think, of the Public Service Commission. And he was summoned and said, you better resign. We don't want blood on the carpet. Yeah, people forget this sort of stuff. And you're going to lecture us now on governance again? They talk about indigenous people and land rights. And I saw Lawyer George speaking an Amerindian language, making that presentation. Somebody sent him. So she didn't make any presentation in any language when they were busy in the 5 years, when they were taking away Amerindian land rights and firing the CSOs. I wish she had made the presentation even in English so that the country would understand it. But now suddenly they have a view on these issues again. So we can go down the long list of policies. That's why I wanted today to start off this way. Contrasting policy for policy, or with policy. And forget the personalities now. The LCDS, environment. What did they do? What did we do? And how is it benefiting the people of this country? They took $2.5 million from money we left under the first LCDS, hired consultants, got GGGI and UNEP to help develop a green state policy. The bulk of it was planting trees. We came back into office, all of the money that we left under the first LCDS, $17.2 million for hinterland, taking internet and improving ICT in the hinterland. That was left under APNU. They spent some of it. We left $10.2 million for land titling. They suspended the land titling program. We had left another $85 million to support renewable energy. We came back into office and the money is still there. We're using it now to set up the solar farms in Essequibo, Berbice, and Linden. They made a mess of the first thing, the LCDS. They were opposed to it. We left money for them. They used some of it. Most of the resources were there. We came back into office. We reworked the LCDS. We expanded it. We got our forest certified. We're earning money now. I told you already about how this is changing Guyanese lives. This is because of the PPP government's initiative to do this. So over $14 billion has already gone to the Amerindian communities. Over 4,000 projects they will do from the $14 billion. The 85% that would remain would help to secure this country through adaptation funding everywhere in the country. So right across the coast, we're building better infrastructure to allow us to deal with climate change and more managing water better. Our biggest vulnerability is water from flooding, etc. But along with that, we have allied benefits too. And so the allied benefits are important. Outside of the climate proofing our country, without any resort to taxpayers' money, we're also opening up about 85,000 acres of new land that will go to the small farmers in the next term in office. But all of this funded from a facility we did, our climate policy. What did they do? We planted a few trees. That was their vision of climate. And making good speeches. They make good speeches, generated, half of them now generated by AI. You know, the AI has made people very lazy now, you know. They've outsourced thinking. So that is the contrast there. So you can't anybody, sensible person, would see there's no competition. We can talk about infrastructure, starting from power. Let's look at the electricity, which is so vital to the country. In the 5 years under APNU, we already had an aging system there because a lot of the power plants were the ones that came in the PPP era, and they were running old already. So we had the hydro to replace a lot of that as base load. They killed the hydro. Made a lot of spurious or false claims about hydro. One, that we'd run out of water. Two, that there would be $2 billion of debt when there was zero debt, just a contingent liability. Three, that there was that the price of electricity would be 30 cents per kilowatt hour when it was 10. Patterson repeated that lie in that last year's budget. Repeated that. Even up to now, he's repeating the lie. They killed the hydro. So that went out. So one would assume that if they go to the UN and promise by 2025, which is what they did, that the 100% of the power will come from renewable sources in Guyana, that they would make the investment. But which investment? Zero investment. So it's not just that they could not meet the renewable energy target, but they could not even expand the capacity, generating capacity for fossil fuel units, which led us into a major problem because when we got back into office, we met the same old infrastructure, but now with a surge in demand to keep the power there. More people, hotels, everything else, people need AC, the housing program expanding, etc. So we needed more power. The demand has surged to over 200 odd megawatts coming from the state alone. So we've been struggling to keep a pace with that. They could have started the gas to energy project earlier under their term. They didn't do anything because they were busy buying land up in a part of the East Coast where they thought the project will go. Some of them. We go back and Google the period when I was in opposition. I exposed all of that when we were in opposition. So they were busy, instead of trying to move this project forward, because it's a no-brainer. You don't need, as I said before, to do a study to know if you have your own gas, you should use it to generate power, because the biggest cost of power generation is the price of fossil fuel or the energy, the fuel, and often the price is variable. So that causes higher rates. So you don't need to do, I see them talking about feasibility study. They love to talk feasibility study. Everything is feasibility study. But even a donkey would know this, that if you have your own fuel, you got to use your own fuel to generate power. And so it's technically feasible, and it would be financially feasible, as we have demonstrated. That gas to energy project, when completed, would generate power at about 4 cents per kilowatt hour versus 20 cents now. So that's why we can reduce the power next year by about 50%, which would be about 11 cents per kilowatt hour, because it's being sold at about 22 cents per kilowatt hour now. So we had to come back in and we put in place an arrangement. They talk about the delays of the project, not that the project, so the project's supposed to come in this end of this year, it will come in next year. Oh, we're worried about the delay. But they would have done nothing, zero. They had no vision. But when that project comes in, it makes a difference. Contrast the two styles. They killed the hydro, did nothing to generate, they had no plan to meet the growing demand of this country. We have done that. We now laid out a plan to upgrade the transmission mains in the country and create a smart grid. That has started already. We just awarded a contract to to transmit the power to the border, take it to Linden, it's going to go to Puerto Rico, all of these, but on major world-class type of infrastructure, not the lantern posts on the roadside where every time you hit a car runs off, you now have major problems. You can't transmit power to another part of the world. That's what we worked on. So contrast the two. Again, so if you're an independent person, I talk about climate policy, now that's power. Talk about roads and bridges. They built one, as I said last week, Maruka Bridge, that's their thing, their big thing. They did a feasibility study in Linden about a bridge that would have cost 30-something million for a 2-lane bridge. We are actually building a 4-lane bridge in Linden for 36 million. The two-lane bridge, their feasibility study would have shown that. That's what they did. But feasibility, because somebody make a little cash on the feasibility like they did. Here, that's what Patterson is charged now and before the court for the other feasibility study that they corruptly did for the Demerara Bridge. That would have been a three-lane bridge that was opening now, a twisting bridge. So that was their plan. We are now doing, as I said the last time, 400 concrete bridges across the country. 400 concrete bridges. What about the highway plan? So contrast the infrastructure now, roads and bridges. So I dealt with first the environmental policies, secondly the power, third it's roads and bridges. I dealt with healthcare earlier. Education. Our budget has grown from $53 billion to $185 billion in 5 years. We've restored the children's grant. We're expanding the school network. We're a whole range of other investments. I can go down and talk about the policy. We made university education free. We're paying for the children to write CXE and CSEC now, all of that. And we're going to expand that. So contrast the two again. You increase UG fees by 35% when you are there. You took away the children's grant. How can you credibly talk about education policy now? Housing, that's even worse. Practically zero investment in housing. You go around the country now, you see that. I could come down the list on policies, and that's what people have to look at. So when they go to these press conferences or Amerindian development, I can talk about the changes, CSOs, land titling back, their presidential grant, the roads in these communities. I see one man go and promise the Quibana Road to do the Maruka to Quibana Road. Although if you listen to my comment at the NTC, the two shows raised it, and even at the NTC, we put $130 million to upgrade the road until it's concrete all the way, which we've announced many times here. I've done that in the last 3-4 years about concrete road from Maruka to Quibana. But let's don't get stray off the topic. Indigenous people development. So what are they going to say they do better than us in government? And that's not an arrogant statement. But I mean, you have to face the reality. Of course, they may have, on the corruption side, they did a great job, because if Nigel Hughes believes that, as he said in court, I'm told, he said, if a minister gives contract to her own company, that is, the minister signed to give a contract to a company she owns, that's not corruption. That tells you a lot about how they see corruption. It tells you a lot. I don't need to say anything else. I don't need to tell you anything else about that. So they do that extraordinarily well. I can go down and do the comparisons, but that will take me like 100 years. And we don't have all of that time here. And then the future. Let's talk about the future. We said there's so many things we need to fix in the future. We have not been perfect, but you look at the 4 years and the change in this country. And another 5 years would see this country transform. We still have tons of things to do. Congestion, road safety, picking up garbage, cleaning up communities, the concrete drains, a lot of parks that we're working on. I can contrast youth development too. Don't let me start on youth development and job creation. Don't let me even start on those things. As I'm talking here, there are so many things coming to my head that we can compare with. So there are lots of those things. And then the vision for the future. Financial inclusion, financial literacy, a lot of government opportunities where people can invest in. We've made that that's going to be a big part of the future. Earlier this week, I met with a young guy who came to see me. He has a company, he does drone, and he sprays rice. And that's the future now, because, you know, we've had, when the aircrafts were flying high and spraying, especially in villages, then the drift is further into the village, and then the aircraft has to go back to land and fill up again and then come back. But with the drones, you can land it at the bed head and fill up just there with the chemicals and go up and spray. You can come very low so you don't drift into the villages. That's the future of applying pesticides to fertilizer when, like if you have paddy bug infestation. Young Afro-Guyanese guy, and he has a big vision. He wants to expand this because it's a growing sector. Now, and I was saying to him, you know, in the next term in office, we are going to put up this development bank to assist people, small and medium scale business. Because the cash grant that given out now, $100,000, can't really cut it. A drone is more expensive of that nature. But a company like his would qualify because it's a small company now, and it's in the cutting edge of agriculture, using drones to spray now, and it's effective. And I was saying to him that that's the vision of agriculture that we're working on. So it is the going back to using proven technology. Look at you saw the president posted on his page the project that we're working on in the Region 5, in the UNVOAC area, with shrimp. That's a $6 billion US market. We should aim to take, like from one country, they export, I don't mean 6 billion globally. One country does that, export that. We could, if we take 1/5 of that, that's the aim. That's a huge industry for people. And with the technology is proven now, we can now replicate that, expand it across the country. They're moving now to a whole range of things like the tissue culture labs. It's so exciting in the agriculture sector. Like we're talking to the farmers in Region 2, because if they take 2 acres and grow onion now, we can get the seed from Brazil. In a couple of years, we'll stop importing onions. We're already going to do that with corn and soya with a big expansion. So it is exciting. That's what we're talking about. You don't hear these guys talk anything about that. They only gripe all day long. You ever hear Nigelus or the others? No vision for the growth of agriculture, but it's not traditional agriculture. It's a different sort of agriculture that can get our best technical minds in it now, the scientists, etc., and it's for everyone. And so agriculture in the past was seen like maybe an Indo-Guyanese thing and stuff like that. It's not. There's so many, the supply chain and other things for agriculture would be phenomenal for all of our people. And it's a huge part of our plan for the future, for diversification of the economy away from oil. So they are, you can talk, that's the conversation we keep having with people and the country all the time. We're talking about not just land to everyone, a housing program, but assisting people to even own a home in the next term. We've already done that by using the taxation system to bring down the cost of credit, which is the mortgage rate. Significantly, it has dropped. I think it's like 5% and 4-point-something% for lower end. But this is the conversation we're having about the future. And that is why I wanted to come back to this stuff. And apart from not being able to compete because they don't have any plans, and as I said before, they don't have a great track record, we have now a rewriting of history that we have to now be cautious about. So I saw this Starbuck News editorial, which is AFC's commitment to renegotiate 2016 PSA. And they said now the declaration by the AFC will begin to chip away at the political facade of contract sanctity that has opportunistically covered the 2016 PSA. Right? And then the most notorious offender here is the governing PPP Civic. So we're the most notorious offender in this matter. Not the AFC that signed this contract. With PPP is the most notorious offender. So this is a whitewash. For AFC to say that Nigel Hughes is on Exxon payroll until today, in spite of his, again, feeble, deceptive public statement that he's exited this. He's made that statement several times. Still on Exxon's payroll because his company was working for Exxon. That's one, clear. Two, they're just conveniently saying this because it sounds popular now. And three, he would have the enablers, like editorials in the Kite News, to now elevate this to a major change of heart, a major revelation on the part of the AFC, and give credibility to it, and then suddenly blame the PPP for this contract. We are the ones. So let me, when did you see this Stabrook editorial speak about Clyde and Company, the same one that Christopher Ram has gone to court to ask for the annex? I think he's in court now to ask for the annex. I haven't seen the annex myself. It might be. And let me read you. I'm going to come back to this contract so that we know who is the offender here, who stuck us with this contract. So Exxon renegotiated this contract in 2016 because the timeline was on the old petroleum prospecting license was being expired. They had already found oil now, very changed circumstances. And they practically controlled the entire process. So this is the Clyde and Company report that the APNU government commissioned in January, and it was released January 30th, 2020. And this is one section of it I'll read. We understand that on the 26th of May, one day before our independence, 25th of May here, Mr. Harris provided by email a first draft cabinet memorandum to Mrs. Homer. Now, what's wrong there? Who is Mr. Harris? Mr. Harris was the commercial advisor for Exxon. He was working for Exxon. Imagine Exxon prepared the cabinet memorandum to approve their own contract. They prepared the memorandum that goes to cabinet to approve their contract. This is, I don't know, almost criminal. How could you allow the company that you are negotiating with, you're taking, the government has to negotiate, it has to take the government's position, what they're going to argue for in a contract to the cabinet. And then pursuant to that, you engage in the negotiations, or you go to the cabinet and say, here are the circumstances in which we agree. But if the other party prepares your cabinet memorandum, that means you'll mislead the whole cabinet. In fact, they would say this is a wonderful deal for the state of Guyana because they're preparing it. This was the state of the PNC government, APNU AFC government. Disorganized, incompetent, duplicitous, didn't pay attention to anything, and I dare say, I must say, corrupt too. And how could you? They then signed the 2016 PSA, in which there is no ring fencing, no corporate tax. They got an 18 million signing bonus that they hid for over a year. In fact, nearly 2 years, the country didn't know. Nobody knew. They put it in an account that is not part of that's audited by part of the contingent fund, so which would have been audited by the Auditor General, and was not reflected in the balance sheet of the central bank. Although it was an account held there. So for all purposes, intents and purposes, it was held outside of the purview of the regulatory authority of the government. So that was where the money was parked. The Minister of Finance denied that there existed this money, that they received a signing bonus, or there was such an account. Then subsequently changed to, when confronted with the facts, he then said they thought it was a gift. You go and Google it. Google it, find out, check it. Winston Jordan said he thought it was a gift to the government. That's their record of this 2016 agreement, the one that we are the bad guys on now. The PPP, the AFC is the darling again, and we are the bad guys. So that's the history of this agreement. The people, Nigel Hughes, his office on the Exxon contract, their of address. Imagine this was chairman of the AFC and then he resigned. So the contract, the Exxon's office was Nigel Hughes' office in the contract. That is their local office. And imagine who's signing the agreement. Another AFC member, Raphael Trotman. So that's the history of this contract. We made it clear, we're going to pass, policy-wise, we're going to pass a new PSA, which we did. Now the new PSA has any future contract, it's ring-fenced effectively because there'd be small blocks. 2, you pay a 10% corporate tax instead of 0. You're now paying 10% royalty instead of 2%. That's the PSA now. That's the one we have. 2, we pass a new law. 3, we pass a local content law. 4, we now change all of the permits, the environmental permits, strengthen them. And you know what? We put everything online, including the audit, the 2 audits that were done. Everything is online. And now we've seen from the audit I saw somewhere that Exxon billed us for the First Lady's trip to, a large sum of money for the First Lady's trip to abroad. Not the current First Lady, on the app. So I thought, they were going to fund that because First Lady took her time to go there. And so this is the Starbuck News again, rewriting of history. And by the shameful actors, the same people, the same AFC, not even PNC. I can understand Norton saying this. Like he could say, well, I was busy on the periphery of government. I didn't know about them things. It was Ranger and the others. I was busy at Bamba Mali or somewhere else working. So he could claim he didn't know. But the same people who are central to this lopsided contract, they are the ones who are the central players now saying, oh, we want to renegotiate. Raphael Trotman wrote a book about this. He didn't write a book about this, how the people drafted the cabinet memo for him. He wrote a book about it. I must confess, I didn't read the book, but I trust there's nothing much there. So rewriting history. So come back to policy. I'm dealing a lot with policy again, oil and gas policy. Look at our oil and gas policy. We laid it out in opposition. We said, these are the sectors in which we're going to spend the money. We laid out education, healthcare, infrastructure. We'd save some for the future. We'll give some back to people, to vulnerable groups, children, women, pensioners, and now we've even gone to a universal kind of cash grant, which we did recently. We laid out what we wanted to do before we got into office with the money. We made it clear that we're going to improve the framework, which we've done by putting in place about 8 or 10 new measures, including a local content law that has transformed the way these oil and gas foreign companies treat Guyanese now. Because if they don't give them the contract in some areas, they can face fines and not criminal, but civil penalties. So we are proud of our stewardship in office in this area, how we have really, in difficult circumstances, changed the landscape and equip our people with better tools. We have defended every policy. We have spoken at a single press conference more about oil and gas than they have done in 5 years. You check that. We've defended our policies in every area because we're convinced that they're good for our people. So even on oil and gas policy, and I see them talking about cost of living too. And this is the same Norton who said he wants to end subsidy on electricity. But you ask how we have kept our inflation rate in spite of a massive capital program and the huge budget, which tends to push or cause the economy to overheat, how we have kept our inflation rate in line with the regional average and even lower. It's because of direct interventions, and I've explained to you how we did it already in transportation, subsidizing gas and diesel at the pump, electricity prices, water prices, internet reforms, a whole range, so that we've kept the significant elements of the cost of living down. Food prices are variable. Often when they go up internationally, we face the consequences, but we have had a direct interventionist policy as a government to tackle all of these matters. No other government has done that. And in the region, the trend is very different. In the region, the trend is very different. Having said that, I just want to say on the cash grant here, a number of people, well, small numbers of people have been contacting me about them not receiving their checks as yet. In the system, they show the checks are printed. And some people who contacted me, at least 4, they encashed the checks. So don't think you can rip me off. I check it out too, because they check and they encash their checks too, right? So we've asked that they put out a number. So their WhatsApp number is 760-2929. So anyone who has any query, who did not receive your cash grant, the $100,000 for any reason whatsoever, or you did not receive the check even if it's printed. They're small numbers, it's not a large number of people. Please contact this number. It's 760-2929, and they would answer your queries there. So instead of sending it to me and I forward it there, you can try there first. If you don't get through there, then you can contact me, my office again. And I just wanted also to say that the NIS, you know, the 10 billion that we set aside to take care of people who will get a one-off grant, who have more than 500 contributions, but don't qualify, from 500 to 749 contributions. So on the NIS website now, if you go there, you would see a link. It is one-off-NIS, one-off-NIS.gov.gy. You click on the link, and then you can put in your name or your NIS number and check if you qualify. That's what I'm told. I'm told today, I asked again if the link is operational. So the people who may not have been contacted by the NIS, but they know they have more than 500 contributions, they're eligible for the one-off grant, but and therefore they can go there to this site and have it sorted out, because a number of people have been asking me too about when it's being implemented. So if you can't get onto the website, you can go to the nearest NIS office and pick up the form. They have it also in paper form, and also make sure that you apply. Here. So a lot of people were extremely pleased that we've had so many people who traditionally may have supported another party joining our campaign and endorsing President Ali for second term, and also the PPP Civic. We're happy to welcome these people in our family. And I can assure them we treat all of our members and supporters with respect. Now, I've seen a lot of attempts to vilify these people. And people, we live in a free country. So people can express their views about what they see as defection and what I see as people coming to us because of the progress and the leadership given by the People's Progressive Party to implement a national agenda that will benefit all of our people. They see that as defection. I see it as endorsing a national plan and wanting to work for all of Guyana, which we are committed to. I see it as an endorsement of our multi-ethnic platform versus a racist platform. I see it as an endorsement of competency in government versus an incompetent, demonstrated incompetence by the last government. I see it as a support of democratic traditions and values versus the complaints that we get from the other side. So I have an entirely positive view of this matter. And I said to the people when I spoke with them that they would be vilified. But now the people who are doing the vilification are the ones who are isolated. It used to be the other way around when Roger Luncheon and Cyril Belgrave and Shirley Edwards, who've been with the party all their lives, or Kwame McCoy and the others, used to be criticized all the time. Now, the vile people who are doing who are saying these negative things about people crossing to us are the ones who are being isolated now, because more and more people recognize now that they're not going to allow these vile statements to stop them from doing what's good for the country and themselves. And that in any case, there is no future for these vile people who are criticizing them, because they're doing it out of desperation. They're doing it out of desperation. And so I'm pleased that that is happening now, today. So when a man like my Paul could criticize anybody, like Geeta Chandan recently in Parliament made a very eloquent speech, and she said why she wants to support President Ali and the PPP Civic. But a bitter person with a deficient character like my Paul, and you don't want me to go through all of the UG funds and everything that he did, tampered with. So could come out and present himself as the conscience of the country and the party. It's downright laughable. It's laughable. And then, so I saw, it's actually funny, I saw this useless mayor of the past, what's his name, Obraj, said he is not joining the PPP. So I don't recall us asking him to join the PPP. In fact, let me tell you, people like Obraj, so let me make this clear. None of the people, not a single one of them who have come to us voluntarily, who support this agenda for development, personal development as country's development, has been offered anything. No position in the once we win the elections, nothing of that sort. We're not a party like the AFC and APNU, where you know why they broke up. They couldn't come together because they wanted to decide how many persons will get a board, how many boards you will sit on, how many ministers you will get, how many MPs. They're sharing the spoil. They can't win the elections, but they're already sharing the limited spoil. We don't do that before elections. Even the current ministers do not know whether they're going back or not as ministers. We don't do that as a political party. Once we win the elections, then the cabinet is formed and other things. Not a single person has been offered anything. What I spoke to them about is, once you're part of our family, we want to see people develop personally, but we want that for the country too. And I said, when you come to the PPP, you're working for yourself and country. And a lot of these people they want that vision. They want to serve. They want our country, bringing people together, implement this exciting agenda that we have. So that's why they're coming to us. We didn't say, like, you got to, there's a quid pro quo for coming to us. We don't do that as a political party. So let me make that clear. But we welcome people, and they see it, and they know they would do well under the PPP. They know they would do well. So, in fact, people like, a couple people came and said, Obraj could come, but he want to know what you all going to give him. And I said, give him what? So that is why it's the ones like him who think they can negotiate with us. We don't want them. I don't know if the people are representing him or were just, saying his friends. But we don't. a person like Obraj, what would he bring to the PP? So when he said, he put out a big statement, I don't want to go to the PPP. Who cares? You know, nobody wants you over here. But if you think there is something we're going to give you to bring across. So let me make it clear. The thing is that we are happy with all of these people. And let me make it further, even clearer. Nobody endorses or jump onto a sinking ship. They see our ship in the ascendancy, on the rise, as sailing into the horizon, well, that is bedecked with development. That is how they see us. They see us trying every day to bring people together and to work for all of our people, whether they're farmers or miners or fishermen or professionals or public servants or teachers or police, that we are working for country and all of the people. And so that is what they see. And that's why they're enlightened and they're supporting the PPP. And we, as I said before, we welcome them to the party. So they don't get like no endorsement. So I saw Malcolm Harry Paul, somebody I fired when I was a Minister of Finance. You'd ask why. I fired him. He was in customs there, and I said nothing. He was working in the office of the president the last round, and he endorsed Norton. Norton picked up an endorsement. So he was PNC, all life, anti-PPP, and he endorsed Norton. Norton picked up an endorsement there. But people, this is how pathetic, and I see some others trying to play down the people. It's reflective of the mood of the country. It's reflective of the mood. People want to come and support this agenda, and it's reflective of the confidence that they have that the PPP will win these elections overwhelmingly, too. So I don't worry about little things like you see every week, the WPA coming out with some poll that says that the elections are going to be tight, and the voting patterns would reflect the same racism of the past. The people like WPA and their 4 members don't matter. So again, similar to the Malcolm Harry Paul, a PNC member endorsing Norton, so too the WPA, which was part of APNU, has now become APNU plus WPA. They were part of APNU. So to show growth, and their coalition now, they've switched from being APNU, a member of APNU, to APNU plus WPA. It's APNU plus 0 or plus 4. Now, 4 members, I mean. That is what it's done. It's like all so infantile, childish, stupid, and they think they can really dupe us, pull wool over our eyes as a population. You will think David Hines needs help, medical help, with all the thing calling people lick bottom and everything else. You're mad, really crazy. I don't know if you could sue a man for calling you mad, but I take my chance with David Hines. But yeah, really, who pays attention? He and a couple of people there. So this is is going to. They're not going to win the elections, APNU AFC, and so they're tying. Some of them are trying to tie bundle with the Mohammeds now. So I see Nigel Yu saying he's not putting everything. He may. could, I saw in the press conference, not a may could, not saying no in the future. Well, we know they were talking. With APNU has deployed its people to support him, thinking that he will probably cause the PPP to split PPP traditional support. That's not happening. And so there, if you look at the comments and the support, his whole team around him is APNU. And also every comment against the PPP is all APNU, things that APNU said about us before. The same thing is, he's just the same people post for him who generate these comments are the ones who are posting for APNU. So it's the same comments against us. So they believe they're deluding themselves that that will happen. For those who have seen what's going on the ground. So first of all, let me address a couple of things. The last week, I think by now, everyone has or is convinced in the country that Azharuddin Mohammed lacks any integrity. And why am I saying this? So, you've seen for the past several days him saying he had this evidence that President Ali was somehow knew about the tax evasion that he engaged in and helped him with it. And then we saw him release the evidence. And it was like dismissive. You know, when people, all the time you get them, and yes, I deal with it, etc. I'll deal with that. That's it. TIGI wants explanation from President Ali about the two tiny posts that you've all seen. They don't want explanation about the 10,000 kilograms of gold that may have been smuggled out of the country. That was smuggled by the Mohammeds out of the country. They want President Ali to explain his post. We've already seen this guy lie again in the release of the evidence. You've seen him tell someone, I paid $1 million US. It's on tape. You can't undo that. He hasn't denied that. Nobody asked him, how come you told the guy? It couldn't be $1 million Guyana dollars that you paid for it. He said, when asked, what did you pay for the Lamborghini? $1 million US. And now doubles down that he had this invoice for $75,000 all along. So I'm not going to go into great detail. I don't even want to go into great detail about it. But this is the guy who talks about people selling their mother, you know, for who lack integrity. He lacks even a modicum of decency, much less integrity. He lies openly. Every time he opens his mouth, he contradicts himself. He contradicts himself. This is a really stupid person. Really stupid person. He contradicts himself every time. In the face of the evidence that he himself put out there. And he expects people to believe him. It's only the trolls and the people who are deluding him. So I've seen people say, oh, he's going to out and he's a threat to the PPP and that's why the PPP coming after him. We made it clear, we campaign against anyone who is opposed to us. We're an equal opportunity party. We believe if you come after us, whether you're APNU, AFC, or the Mohammeds, or any other person, we'll give you fair treatment. We'll come back after you. And That's why. It's not because we believe he's a threat. The people who went to Morocco, a lot of children, and then a lot of our party's supporters said, we wanted to see Sanction Man. We've never seen him before. And we went there, but the guy is really dumb. They called me and said he's really dumb. He spoke for a couple of minutes about critic and I don't know what else, a special part of critic, and then everything else he spoke about. And we were expecting something different. And some went hoping he was going to hand out something. And they said, you're really dumb man. A two-show said to me, they offered me money to bring my people out. But I know what he's about. So two-show said they offered him a lot of money recently. So he may be paying a few people to do that. But at the end of the day, what would a two-show say to people in the face of all of the evidence of change? The communities know that. The communities know that. And so when people go, it's a mix. And it's small numbers. If you actually go to the pictures and look at them, it's small numbers. So we're not afraid of him. I see that's what they like to say. Look at the PP. That's why so many people are joining the PP, coming to the PP. You think if they thought we were going to lose the elections, they'd be coming? Everybody, when you go across this country, people say, oh, it's foregone. He is not going to make any difference whatsoever. And so, but it's, so this is what's going on. And then the messaging. I saw some members of the family posting, oh, people say they will come out quietly. I got a WhatsApp message. If I show you the WhatsApp message around people around him who are close and benefiting from him, say, this man, the same thing, he's a Dumbo, but I'm getting something here. They would not vote for him. I could release my WhatsApp message when they get one WhatsApp message or they create it. So I saw it a couple of days ago, they're complaining about Kwame McCoy. Apparently Kwame McCoy made a long speech at the cash grant activity, and they said it's campaigning. But knowing McCoy will make a long speech wherever he goes. And so I'm thinking, and then one family member posted, it's not charity. So I didn't think it was charity ever. We don't see people that way. And it's taxpayers' money. That's what the family member posted. But they didn't know that the 11 billion that they stole from the Treasury is taxpayers' money too. They didn't know that. And that the $11 billion could fund 1 year of cash grant for all 200,000 kids in the country. But the audacity, the shamelessness to make a post like that, because Kwame McCoy went and gave a speech there. $11 billion evaded on 10,000 kilograms that they smuggled out of the country in 5 years alone. You calculate at $55,000 each per child, multiply by about 200,000. And you'll see, shamelessly saying McCoy campaigning. Now, all right, so Kwame McCoy went there and took credit to the PP government returned this. But who you want us to send? Norton, who took it away, or Nigel Hughes, who took it away? Or this man who stole it by smuggling the gold out of the country? Kwame McCoy has a right to be there because it's his government that fulfilled its promise of returning this money to people. It was zero. It's 55,000. We made a manifesto promise. And he's a minister of the government until now. APNU remained, the ministers were, even after the elections, 5 months after the elections, we had ministers under APNU. He's a minister of the government. It's a government initiative. You want us to send them to make a speech there? So Kwame, please go and make more speeches. but not so long. 20 minutes would be good enough. You just burden the parents a little bit too long too, right? Just a short thing, the key points there. They're shameless, these people. They're complaining about that now. The Mohammeds and the PNC, but they're all in the same boat. Shameless set of people. You took away the money from the children, and now you're vexed because the PP telling family, we return the money and we fulfill our promise. That's what government is about, fulfilling your promise. So, I think how long so far? 3:41 hours. Let me end there. Right, thank you. Right. Yeah, go on.
Good afternoon, Dr. Jagdeo.
Good afternoon.
Wendell Jeffrey, Channel 2 Headline News. I want to segue from the point you're making. From the last calculations, it takes about 5,000 votes per seat, something like that.
No, more than that. Yeah. If you take 460,000 and divide by 65, it'll tell you how much.
And therefore, for all the possible negativities that surround Mr. Azzuddin, if people like what he's doing, he can still be effective. For those who might not know, or
yeah.
he might still be effective.
So, but let me ask you something, Wendell. Have you been following politics here? In 2020, we won the elections with a majority. Single party competing against all of these other parties. 16 of them, 14 at the national level, 2 otherwise, part of coalitions. Since then, we got back into office. That's when APNU had control over everything. We got back into office. We've implemented all of these programs. The Amerindian communities, which voted for us, along the coast. We've had the local government election results showed that we are winning more in traditional areas. We have now a number of people who've seen where we are going and are crossing over to the PPP. You think the signals are not clear? The PPP will win the elections. If we get 60% of the votes, say this 460,000 persons voted the last time, say 500,000 vote now, and we get 60%. That means that 300,000 will vote for us, okay? So you still have 200,000 people out there who would vote otherwise. So you want me to account for every one of the 200,000? Somebody got to get it. Whoever gets it, that's fine. I don't care if he takes from APNU or APNU lose it or AFC lose it, whatever. But we're not going to get 100% of the votes. You make it look like we're looking for 100% to win the elections. If we get 60% of the electorate, you still have 200,000 people who will vote against you, basically. And so what's wrong with that? And look at the people. Have you analyzed? I've been in politics. The Gina Rahaman, Charles Sugrim. Gina Rahaman is an old griper. All 100 years he has been around. He used to be in Charm, etc. He is a shock force now for the Mohammeds. Charles Sugrim, who was at AFC, they dump him. This guy's been hanging around looking for money everywhere and everything else. All his life, nothing. Lied, he said I burned down some house he had and he had to apologize. I think some factory. Lying Charles Sugrim. He is the campaign manager. And the third one is like Ramaya. Ramaya has been going from one party to the next, etc. These are the campaign managers. And then the Slack Bhakta from Essequibo Coast. Those are the people. Look at these are the people. And going around and taking down people's name and getting a few people come out and so. You think that's how you run a campaign? But even if so, I wish him well. I wish him well. The thing is that we don't need your people behave as though we have to get all 500,000 votes to win the elections of the people who voted. We honest 300,000 should be good enough.
Thank
to win
you.
60%. And you just need 51%, right?
Correct.
To win. But, right.
Yeah, so it's possible that he will pull some votes.
Yeah, but
When he was asked,
but you think, yeah, but
No.
that's why I don't see him as important. He's just a criminal. The guy is a criminal, and because he falsified things. His whole war came about not because we are afraid of him. It's because he was sanctioned by the United States of America. I see now people talking about this issue, but he was sanctioned by the U.S. He put out how much he paid for his Lamborghini. It's his own stupidity. Yeah, let's move on. Let's move on. I don't want to waste my time being people who are... Yes, go on.
asked if he would join or partner with the PPP. He said, he was asked by a reporter, he said, if it lend to the development of the people of Guyana.
Mm-hmm.
With that in mind, would the PPP accept the support or the partnership of T. Mohammed?
We are, as I said before, we're not arrogant, but we're confident that we will win the 2025 elections. We're confident about that. We're not arrogant about it. Because of the work that we have done, we've kept faith with the people of this country. So the thing is that I'm not dealing with hypotheticals now. And if allowing people to smuggle is in the best, that's how they characterize it, in the best interest of the people of Guyana, then I beg to differ. But I don't want to waste my time. He is just APNU's hopes. That's why I'm saying APNU hopes that he will make a difference in the electorate. So I don't want to waste my time. I'm just actually at this press conference, I'm even spending too much time on a useless person.
Right.
I don't even waste my time. I just went on the platform, then you would listen to that me there, but I don't want to waste my time at the platform here.
So the answer is no, you have no intentions of...
Yeah. So Nigel Lewis said he will. Ask Nigel Lewis about that. Nigel Lewis wants to join him. Yes.
Just as a second question, is the message, are you satisfied in your capacity as the General Secretary that the message of the PPP is getting through to a wide enough cross-section of the Guyanese society? And if yes, why? And if no, why not?
So clearly, yes, maybe messaging is an issue always. PR can always be an issue. However, our messaging is doubling old age pension that we promise. So the pensioners know that. The children of this country and their parents know that we said it, and we now we would get to 50,000 per child, and we got back to that. We kept the promise. The 60,000 people who are working now have jobs. That's our messaging. The roads, every community that we built the roads in, that's our messaging. The 12 hospitals, that's our messaging. You know, the 4,000, 5,000 contractors, many small contractors, many Afro-Guyanese contractors who are now working, that's our messaging. They develop the change in the country, you know, that's our messaging. So when you drive around this country, you see the messaging staring at you in the face in the form of tangible evidence. It's not by hollow gaff from politicians. You see it everywhere you go in the country. In the Amerindian communities, they've seen it. On the coast, we've seen it. So that's our messaging. No, it's not you can put anything on paper. Like we've seen in the past. Anything could be placed on paper. Our best messaging is drive around and you'll see it. Right?
Good afternoon, Dr.
Yes.
Jagdeo, Anas Williams, Kaiser News. Just a few quick questions. Does the new oil spill law guarantee that Guyana and its regional neighbors will be fully and adequately compensated in the event of an oil spill, whether the damages are environmental or economical? And if yes, can you say why is government still appealing the High Court's ruling, demanding an unlimited parent company guarantee for Guyana and the Caribbean? Secondly, can you explain Exxon and its partners reporting that their profits for 2024 being $10 billion, but Guyana only got $2.6 billion US, despite it being a 50-50 profit sharing? And lastly, what is your response to growing criticisms that Guyana's low tax to GDP ratio is a direct result of generous tax concessions given to oil companies?
Mm-hmm. So I saw something about Exxon reporting $1 trillion in profit over the 3 years, and they said that the government got about $1.3 trillion. So that's about consistent with the formula, which says that 14.5% of the 25%, which is set out for as profit sharing, would result in that configuration, and they would have 10.5. So that's consistent from what I saw. It can't be any different. In these years, they have to get less profits than we have, than we would have received because of that formula. They have spoken about paying back the capital, which is a different matter, about paying back the capital invested, which comes out of the 75% allocated of revenue allocated for that purpose. So we can't conflate the two. Very, very different, and it's consistent with the formula. And just to tell you that, to give you an indication, if they say $1.3 trillion we got since the beginning of oil, that's less than this year's budget, 1 year budget, but that's what we got from the beginning. So that confirms what we've been saying, because we passed 5 budgets so far. So entirely clear. They now, with the new law in place, the way I see it is that permits from the EPA would have to ensure that they are responsible, and the financial assurances they give must be consistent. They're responsible for all, first of all, they're responsible for all of the damages caused, that is the cleanup cost of the damage caused from a potential oil spill, and 2, for consequential losses. No, for Guyana, we legislate for the state of Guyana. They have to provide financial assurances consistent with their new law, or their liabilities under the new law. So the assurances they give must cover all of those liabilities. That's what we want. We want full coverage of all liabilities. So the EPA, the new permits from the EPA, must seek a financial assurance that would ensure that all of their potential liabilities are covered. And it's clear in the law. Anil Nandalal went through this several times. Please look at this. I asked him to. He did a full explanation of this. So I suspect if you're talking about like Trinidad and Tobago, I don't think they'll legislate for Guyana when they look at oil spills, etc. They can sue the company too. They can sue the company. So people have to decide, is this a good thing or a bad thing? What do you think? Low tax to GDP is a good thing? Huh? How you look at it? No. What do you think? If low tax, if it was high tax to GDP ratio, they would say, look, you burden the taxpayers. Now the low tax to GDP ratio is a problem too. Well, the thing is that this is as a consequence of the Kiteshore News and Starbuck News bodies in the AFC having a zero corporate tax for the oil and gas activities in Guyana. It's a consequence of that. So you can have the GDP growth rate would outstrip the growth rate of revenue. And it's a simple explanation for that. Simple explanation. You tell me if that's good. If it's good, then they did a great job there.
Just a quick follow-up. You've spoken a lot of times before about this formula in relation to my previous question. Can you give us like an idea of what the formula is?
Which formula?
With the profits for Exxon and Guyana.
Man, oh God, don't ask me this question now after all these years. You don't know what the formula is? It's as simple. You have 100% of revenue. 75% goes to cost recovery, right? 25% is for profit sharing. So that means 12.5 to Exxon and 12.5 to the government. But then they have to, from their 12.5, give us the 2% royalty. So we end up with 14.5 and they end up with 10.5. So that's how it works. Oh. Now, after all these years, the formula, yeah, go on.
Good afternoon, Dr. Jagdeo, Starbuck News, Mrs. Slow. As it relates to the ongoing saga with President Ali and Mr. Mohammed, now, there have been some public concerns raised regarding their relationship. And the main question raised here is surrounding the related tax questions surrounding the recent Lamborghini purchase of Mr. Mohammed. Do you think it is in the interest of transparency that the president should address this directly?
The president addressed it. The president will not get into the trench with a man of low integrity and a man who is sanctioned by the U.S. for smuggling 10,000 kilograms of gold that the U.S. said they have a mountain load of evidence for, and that refuses to answer that question truthfully. Is not given an answer to the Starbuck News. I didn't see Starbuck News or any of the media hounding him every day, calling him and say, how come? Call him and say, what about the 10,000 kilogram? Nothing there. What about the 11 billion evaded? Nothing of that sort. He doesn't give answers. He sidesteps the issue all the time. And then he keeps saying he paid $75,000 for the Lamborghini in the face of the U.S. government supplying an invoice, the Treasury Department of the United States of America supplying an invoice for $695,000. And he told an influencer that he paid $1 million US and it's on camera. How come you want to ask Ali about this? Why don't you ask him? This is a big cover-up. It's a cover-up by the mainstream media because they somehow believe that he is going to assist APNU. It's a cover-up. And this is it. The guy refuses to answer the key questions before he lies about them. And not just refuses, he lies about them. And we just take the lies. The President Ali must now respond to the lies. President Ali has already responded. That's enough. That's enough. That's the end of the matter. They were looking for some smoking gun. Oh, I have evidence of interference. All you saw was a dismissive thing from the president. I'll look into it later, man. I'll look into your thing. And now he's even more stupid to say this evidence that he supplied, he didn't actually send the invoice to the president, but that was the invoice that was a true invoice I told the president about. Lying guy. So I don't think Ali should dignify. Now suddenly, that's why I'm telling you, the TIGI wants Ali to respond. TIGI wants Ali to respond. They don't want to find out about him. Maybe they should find nothing about him so far, not a single statement. It is the anti-PPP NGOs. They're part of the political arm of these bodies, and half of them collecting money from people. Half of them collecting money from people. I can't speak for the president totally, but I tell him, don't engage this clown.
All right, thank you, sir. My other question, this is related to your personal relationship, or should I say past relationship with Mr. Mohammed.
What was that, by the way? What was that? Relationship with... He asked me about my personal relationship or my past relationship with the Mohammed. So tell me, what was that?
So the question is directly...
No, what was that relationship? You're asking me about it. Tell me, what was the relationship? I'm waiting. I'm relaxing here. All right. Tell me, what was it?
I'm asking, sir, if there was a relationship, and could you say...
What kind of relationship?
Business
I
or
like
personal?
Women. I like women. There is no relationship there. What kind of relationship are you talking about?
I'm asking. I'm not certain. I'm just asking if there was a relationship.
No, but I could ask, did the AFC visit the lunar, like the Mars last week? You could ask anything under the world. It doesn't mean it's making sense. So you tell me, you're talking about relationship. What relationship? I didn't help him to smuggle no gold out of the country, 10,000 kilograms. I wasn't involved in paper shorts matter. I wasn't involved in the his Lamborghini business. So what relationship you're talking about? That's it. They bandy these things around. Now, did I see the man before? I seen a lot of people, including Norton. I shake Norton's hand from time to time. He is a little sour one time. He laughed at me the next time at a convention center. So what relationship do I have with Norton? I met Nigel Hughes a few times. I even in the public sometimes, you even have criminal types who come and take picture with me. I don't know who they are. A lot of criminal types come. So
there was no relationship.
No relationship.
Thank you.
That's what I'm trying to find out. What relationship I have.
Dr. Jagdeo, good afternoon. Mikhail Rodriguez for Daybreak News. The OFAC sanction list has just been updated with the name of 4 Guyanese in relation to drug trafficking, illicit drugs, and 2 Colombians with connections to the drugs trade and money laundering in Guyana. Can you say if your government played any role with giving information to the U.S. and helping with the eradication of the drug trade in Guyana?
Well, we have a DEA presence in Guyana. And we have a close working relationship with the U.S. government and with the law enforcement agencies in the United States of America. I've not seen, I'm here at a press conference, there was an expectation that the sanction entities would have, or the additional sanctions would come earlier, but apparently they did now. And so I've not seen their names. You said it's relation to drug trafficking. I would like to, I don't mind commenting on it, but I would like to just read what it is. Steve, why don't you print it out for me? I don't mind commenting on it, but I need to read it first. There's sanction, who was sanctioned and what. But if it's to, let me see.
That's from the OFAC website itself.
Or so there are people from around the world, but including from Guyana. So
Some Colombians and 4 Guyanese.
some Colombians who are living here? Oh, no, they're from.
Their address is not here, but it is in direct relation to.
I will look at it later and then give a comment. However, let me just say that I've seen recently the people returning to the Reuters story. So often, if it was the PPP, every news media in this country would have probably been researching all the international articles written about a PPP individual and publicizing those. Every day that would have been in the media. But how come when it has to do with the Mohammeds, they don't do that? Is it that the media is being bought, some elements of the media being bought, or are they being steered? So how come this article was published by Reuters on July 14, 2023? There is a section of the article to give credibility to the article. It says possible sanctions. Now, this took place before the sanctions were announced for the Mohammeds. It says US officials have been in deliberations about whether to impose sanctions on Nazar and Azruddin Mohammed, according to 6 people familiar with the matter, including an Exxon official and a Guyana government official. The sanctions, which would be administered by the Treasury's Department's Office of Foreign Assets Control, would make it illegal for American companies to do business with the Mohammeds. So almost over a year before the sanctions were imposed on the Mohammeds, there's a Reuters article which says the US is considering sanctions since then. So, and they actually did sanction them. So that gives great credibility to what's written here. The Mohammeds deny what is in the Reuters story. But another section, the part that has not made the media hear a lot, and I saw it last night, and then in the media, and then I said, you know, how come the media is not pushing this? That is not the mainstream media, it's not in it. It says in this part of the same article, and you can go and read it yourselves at home, the Mohammeds deny any wrongdoings. They're being investigated by the Drug Enforcement Administration, DEA, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, and other US agencies on suspicions of smuggling Colombian cocaine and illegally mined Venezuelan gold to the United States, Europe, and the Middle East, according to the 5 sources with knowledge of the probe. The Mohammeds are also suspected of laundering money for drug traffickers and criminals, including sanctioned Russian nationals operating in the region, according to one intelligence report. Now, Reuters is not, every one of you knows that Reuters is not it's the biggest probably news agency in the world. It's the biggest news agency in the world. And to write this article, and then the Mohammeds deny it, but they said they will sue Reuters, but nothing happened. And then they said that the sanctions may come, and the sanctions did come. So they know what they were talking about. So I wouldn't be surprised that people are sanctioned for the drug trafficking now. I would not be surprised about it at all. Whilst I can't here comment on a direct link, but I would not be surprised. That's what I have to say at this point in time. Yeah.
Good afternoon, Tricia Silvers, Guyana Times. 2 questions.
Yes.
Since government has already surpassed its $50,000, its 50,000 house lot allocation target, can you say what we can expect if there's a next term in office for the housing sector, as well as if there's a general update on the GTE project? The last update I'm aware of is the US $422 million contract that was signed for the overhaul of GPL's Damrara-Berbice interconnected system. If there's any other update.
So that is, the PM spoke about a timeline that it was supposed to come in by the end of the year, a shift into the second quarter of next year. That's the new timeline we're looking at for the project. He spoke of that. We already awarded the transmission mains to take the power to Berbice. The substations, they are being built to bring the power to the control center here in Georgetown, and they should be completed anytime now. The pipeline is completed. We are now going to award about $200 million of upgrade to the distribution network. Now, what happens is that the distribution network is old, and you don't have enough transformers. So every time you push more power to the villages and to the wards in the city, you get the tripping of the feed because they don't have enough, they're old lines, and also they don't have enough transformers on them. So that is to upgrade the distribution main, so it would ensure greater reliability for power among people. That's where we are with that. It will continue aggressively in the next term. So we have awarded already about 43,000 house lots, and by the end of the year, you'd have another 25,000, I think, would be awarded. So we will continue building. It would take great priority in the next government because we want all of our people to own their own home. So once they're eligible, we have to work to get them a house lot, once they're eligible. You can't get a house lot and sell it out and then come back again. So that is the goal of the government, to work towards full eligibility.
No, in the 2020 manifesto, you announced the 50,000 house lots. Is there a specific number that you're looking at for the next term?
I don't want to you would hear it when the manifesto comes out. So we plan to have a public consultation on the manifesto. Forgot the date that I gave them to arrange it, but it will be towards the end of the month. But we're not rushing to put it out because we already know many of the things that we intend to do, but we want to make sure that we get additional feedback. Like I said to the young guy who did the drone, and another young lady I met who talking about education early in the week. And I said, come to the consultations, share your views, too. Right.
Dr.
Yes.
Dr. Jagdeo, Saskia Warwick from NCN News. I know the opposition recently said that they're prepared for the September 1 elections, but the opposition appointed commissioners abandoned yet another meeting. Do you foresee this pattern continuing and potentially disrupting the smooth flow of the electoral process?
We predicted this, that they are going to try to stymie the work of the Elections Commission so that we can't have the elections by September 1st. I doubt they will succeed because the Commission has already laid out a plan, and there is a provision where if they don't show up, the Commission can convene another meeting 48 hours later, and then whether they show up or not, proceed with its work. So I hope they show up to discuss the matters, but right now from what I've seen, that there would be an update of the list. The PLE would be made available soon. There would be a period of claims and objection, and then the OLE would be published. So from what I see on the timelines, I don't see them being able to disrupt the activities, the preparation for the elections. But they will not cooperate. Those I thought they had an opportunity to change the way they work, but no, it's like you can't rely on them to act in good faith. Okay, thank you very much. Oh, you have a question on it.
Good afternoon, Luan Williams from DDPI. Sir, we saw Apple buying 100,000 of Guyana's carbon credits. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
The rates were good there, in keeping with the old rates that we got. So Apple bought those, and it's good because it's not a lot. It's a small amount, but it gives us a lot of publicity value. Okay, publicity value. So it's really great that a company like Apple, a big company like that, sees that these are valuable credits. It brings great credibility to our product in the market. So I'm really pleased with that. Thank you. Huh?
Does people benefit from this sale?
Yes. Any sale, they're entitled to 15%. But if you look at the actual, it's more like 20% that they've received over the last 3 years. But it's so any sale that's made, the rest of the money then gets paid into this account to be used for the projects that I mentioned before. That is the adaptation projects, and part of it goes to indigenous people. So next year, when the NTC comes, they will get the money. You know what? A lot of these politicians are disingenuous, right? So they see the discussions that took place at the NTC, and they know what the commitments are made on roads like Edge Hill and everyone else. We're discussing with the Tushao. So they're running back into the villages and saying to people, we're lobbying for you to get this road. This time it's part of our program and it's going to be done. So it's the lies that they tell to the people. Thank you.